Minecraft has had tens of thousands of servers, hundreds of RPG mods, minigames, and adventure maps, but only a very select few projects ever aimed to be something more. Wynncraft, Skyblock, Roon. Today we recount the historic projects and servers that dared to dream of adventure by aiming for one of probably the most challenging categories of experience in gaming: the MMORPG. Welcome back to Kweebec Corner. My name is Connor, and today on the Minecraft Development Circle, we cover the history of the game's most popular MMO servers and projects. From discontinued legacies to unbelievable evolutions, the Minecraft community has seen the rise and fall of some amazing collaborative experiences. So today, we're going to cover some of those RPG features, how some of those servers came about, and why they were loved so much. Before we get into things, a quick announcement. If you're a fan of the channel, we've now got merch. Celebrating 50k, me and artist Dairy Panda have teamed up to bring this exclusive, ready when it's ready design to all of you eager game-awaiting fans, fit with your very own dagger-throwing pigeon. We've got high-quality shirts, sweaters, jackets, even a cool mask thingy. It's called a neck gaiter. Gaiter? Try a poster, a pillow, even a mug. Ready when it's ready. See, it's like tea. Lastly, get this. Everyone who purchases an item will also get a special Discord rank and the chance to play an extra in my first Hytale Machinima series. Just visit the link in the description or kweekwee.com to view the store, and remember to use code GORDON for 15% off at checkout. That's GORDON. Back to the video. You see, there's been hundreds and hundreds of RPG experiences in Minecraft's history, but today we're talking specifically about MMORPGs, experiences made on Minecraft servers intended to be massively multiplayer. They hold RPG elements like the RLCraft mod pack, but allow you to function in an overarching world shared by everyone. Resources could be limited, a group may be needed to defeat a boss. That doesn't mean that all gameplay is inherently cooperative in nature though. The best MMORPG experiences lay out a course for the player, teamed or solo. Not everyone has friends readily available and wanting to play the exact same game. But how did we go from struggling to develop an RPG-style plugin for multiplayer Minecraft to single servers now hosting thousands of people, multiple specialized experiences and minigames, as well as pushing rollout updates regularly for the biggest MMO-style projects that we've ever seen built on the platform? Now, there was a point in time where MMOs just weren't feasible. The ability to mod things in like that just wasn't possible. Server development wasn't anywhere near as easy and configurable, let alone being able to create something like a plugin. Really, back in 2010, the closest thing you could get to an RPG within Minecraft was role-playing on a server with friends. Setting your own guidelines and lore. You're this race, you're that race. You can cut trees, you're good at fighting. You can perform magic, let's pretend we have quests. That sort of thing. At times, I remember really having to depend on my abilities to RP that I learned in places like World of Warcraft to help me feel immersed in the Minecraft world. You can actually see this much more familiarly with Shadow of Israfel, when the Yogscast utilized real player characters and builds to bring the sense of some living, breathing world. Of course, none of it was actually coded, it was all player made, because it would still be a year or two until support for plugins really took off. As systems evolved, server devs learned to transfer single-player mods over to multiplayer instances, sometimes developing them entirely from the ground up to be for servers. My RP community eventually reset their map and developed a completely custom and exclusive plugin which gave all of our characters the actual attributes of their race. There were alien players that could only heal by eating redstone, a vampiric race that burned in the sun. We even made it so that there was an in-character and out-of-character chat channel. And this wasn't just happening with us, it was happening everywhere. Evolving slowly into what you see today, where these ginormous multi-experience servers host hundreds of complex, exclusive, interlocking custom plugins to provide dramatically different experiences for every type of user in the player base. The likes of things like Bucket, Spigot, Forge, these programs enabled servers to begin to craft their very own identity, no longer limited by vanilla capabilities. Plugins like MCMMO grew really popular. With factions, minigames, survival, and creative servers, it was only a matter of time before people began to attempt something a bit more ambitious. The first time the Minecraft community really got hyped about an MMO project was that of Roon by Team Bashaverse in collaboration with Fire UK, which began being teased in 2012. A post on the Minecraft forums followed in March 28th. Originally, the project's world was teased through a series of machinimas named The Legend of Hobo, which set the stage for the Elder Scrolls-inspired world known as Roon. Factions, towns, and characters of importance were all emphasized. While this in itself was a revolutionary step for machinima content, they were also working in the background to develop a much deeper world with a rich backstory and regional lore. And so, all that time ago, we're actually subtly advertising this Roon project right from the start in their first ever machinimas. As The Legend of Hobo began to pick up traction and demand for episodes grew, the team actually slowed down, eventually choosing to focus more on building a community server while Roon trudged on in the background. Basher would always discuss his plans. They wanted quests, races, real conditions within the world, grandiose living, breathing towns and settlements with a huge emphasis on roleplay. Once he even joked about including a poop mechanic. But of course back then, this was all just so ambitious. To do quests was one thing, let alone an entire MMO. It's ironic to me then that these earliest projects were some of the most ambitious. Perhaps teams not fully understanding the capabilities of Minecraft's system requirements or even the time investment required to bring such a server to life. This meant they overestimated and got a little bit in over their heads. Safe to say, a whole lot of content was still developed, entire books worth of lore were written for Roon. I even won a writing competition to get my story included in a great library of tales, which at the time actually inspired me to grow into the creator I am today. Unfortunately, high expectations are often not met. Roon simmered down and eventually released as a fairly basic plug-in RP server, with very little of what was originally promised. Soon, that era was over, and people would ponder on as to whether an MMO would ever truly be possible in Minecraft. Team Skullburn was a group of creatives, builders, and developers that began in early 2013 and also had their eyes on the idea of a Minecraft MMO. Mithros, The Rise of Elarog, was intended to be a fully downloadable custom client, fit with a large number of RPG-style mods and a list of regional servers. They planned for the map to span continents, with borders swapping the players over to regional server instances. I came aboard the team as a writer after body acting in the largely unrecognized Ark & Chronicles machinima series that was created by the same people. The project was once again ambitious. The team planned a huge magnum opus of lore, comprising gods, races, religions, landmasses, and even ages in history. The project featured fully animated player characters too, with bending limbs and emotes. There was a workshop where players themselves could literally log onto the server and design 3D weapons in-game with blocks that would be translated into holdable items and models. UI was transformed to allow for a cool health pot and mana pool with many dungeons and bosses planned for release. Sadly, even after garnering hype with a panel at Insomnia Gaming Festival 49 and some YouTube coverage by the likes of In the Littlewood, the project never truly found its footing, and in 2014 would go on hiatus, never to be heard of again, remaining another MMO that never was. Started as a simple project back in 2011 by The Podcrash, Mindscape began to expand as the world of RuneScape was recreated within Minecraft. By 2014, we finally started to see really big creators producing content on the server. Even to this day, players record on Mindscape because it has a great way of capturing that old-fashioned routine grinding that is so familiar to RS players. With quests, skills, and talent trees, as well as custom items and experience tables, Mindscape was a great example of what was possible. A season pass was eventually introduced which offered limited challenges that rewarded cosmetics such as skins, pets, fireworks, and special auras. And even a high alchemy system was added, inspired by the original MMO experience. Over time, the map has grown to be gigantic, with many locations and references to old-school RuneScape, and it was no surprise that this server found popularity. We have to remember a big chunk of gamers before Minecraft were playing World of Warcraft or RuneScape, so this server definitely had an audience, a demographic, albeit a limited one. Mindscape were certainly kicking it with the older players, but it was a niche, and something that is better understood if you're a fan of the original game. The first truly successful MMO would be one that offered an entirely original experience for players both new and old. It was around about 2012 that a server began development that would change the way we see Minecraft MMOs forever. Salted, owner of the channel Crafted Movie, originally began the team and released the project on April 30th, 2013. Seen as the first fully developed, completed, and successfully launched MMORPG server, Wynncraft had a special website, a dedicated player base, and plenty of inspiration from the classic MMOs of the time. YouTuber Grian joined the project with a team of builders that helped shape a magnificent world to explore. Grian also wrote many storylines too. Quests, factions, NPCs, mobs, levels, dungeons, it had it all. And over years, more updates continued to bolster the ever more impressive roster of assets and content that Wynncraft had to offer. Starting as killing mobs for gear and loot to level, as well as simple dungeons and towns to explore, there was a max level of 70, but for the first few months, content only went up to level 40. The following month, however, updates began rolling out regularly that expanded the item and feature pool tenfold, adding things like pets that could fight for you, and quests for levels all the way from 40 to 70. Skill points were added in the 1.9 update, and later that year, ocean content was added too, with islands that you could explore. Spells and magic became a system all of its own, completely custom mob UI and health bars appeared, and with a shop slightly geared towards pay to win, it was kinda looking good for Wynncraft. That is, of course, until the End User Licensing Agreement, or EULA, came into play, deeply affecting the monetization of the server, which hindered earnings dramatically. No longer could they sell bare-bones items, they had to get smart. After this, the province of Gavel was released, along with the official resource pack for the server, a map 3 times the size of the original Wynn area, with 1,300 new items and 80 3D models to bolster their asset collection more. Through perseverance, talent, and pacing, Wynncraft has expanded its world to an admirable size of 4,000 by 5,500 blocks as of 2017. There's a large capital city, branching storylines as mentioned, and has of course increased its player count significantly since it launched in 2013, even earning a Guinness World Record for largest Minecraft MMO. Zentrella appeared almost out of nowhere following this. As the hype of the Wynncraft's Gavel update began to disperse in 2016, Edasaki, a player of the server, finished development of his attempt at an MMO called Zentrella. Advertising it, he gained a small number of players that were captured by his spellcraft and combat systems, as well as the huge array of diverse classes unseen in any other server. Things like Reapers and Alchemists, beyond just regular Rangers and Warriors seen in Wynn. This instantly made obvious that competition was not just possible, it was beneficial, as it prompted both servers to compete for players in small ways. It showed potential, too, for an MMO ecosystem, and some Wynncraft builders even joined the Zentrella team eventually. With a more detailed and nuanced combat system, many players switched allegiances to the Zentrella server for a short time. Many Wynncraft YouTubers also began creating content in this new world. This showed everyone that there is value in competition, attraction to new shiny things, and while Zentrella was only developed by one man, it still managed to make a name for itself within the community, albeit not for long, as the project was closed a little less than a year later. Zentrella definitely wasn't the biggest MMO, but it came along at a good time, teaching everyone in the space that even when you think something is at its best, it can still be improved. And though the world of Zentrella was short-lived, it reminded us that these experiences were possible, that innovation needed to continue, and that servers shouldn't be getting lazy with content updates. I think at this point, the idea was really being pushed more. Now MMOs could be done. There was hard evidence that it was achievable with enough work. We saw lots of new projects crop up around this time, including a server aimed at the audience of a long-time series known as MyNite, which was streamed by Captain Sparkles, Tom Syndicate, Jericho, Firefox, and many others. MyNite MMO was a project planned to encapsulate and expand on the world painted in the series. Similar in a way to what happened with Legend of Hobo and Project Roon. They built the lore up first through entertainment and shows before buckling down on a real project. I actually became a writer for this Minecraft MMO for a short period, although due to project inactivity, it never really got off the ground. Now, there is a case to be made about faction servers. I haven't mentioned any so far, and that's because I don't really know how. Like, at what point do experiences become MMORPGs? I know a lot of MMOs with factions. There's entire sections of World of Warcraft dedicated to PvP. So at what point in Minecraft does a server with factions, or PvP, evolve to include so many RPG features that it could be considered an MMO? And is the number of players anything to do with that? To be clarified as massively multiplayer, you need to be looking at the hundreds of thousands, not tens of thousands. I guess the difference is that a faction server could be classified as just that. It's bare-bone factions with little of anything else. No skills, no profile, no customized mobs or items. It is quite hard to categorize some servers, however. For example, I worked for Island Clash, a server inspired by Clash of Clans and kingdom building tycoons. Technically, going by all of its aspects, it could be considered a real-time multiplayer faction-based strategy game with RPG elements. But that's, well, a bit of a mouthful. At times, a server can begin to add so many plugins that when combined, it feels like an MMO, despite it not actually being advertised as such. Despite Island Clash not technically being an MMO, it was a largely multiplayer server, hosting many factions, allowing you to set up a town, build up an economy, collect resources, and even upgrade before raiding one another. It was certainly intricate. I remember seeing the build schematics literally build up in real time when you placed them. So yeah, let me know in the comments, what do you guys think the difference is between MMOs and factions? Where do you think that line is drawn? Speaking of lines, in 2018, another was drawn. Hypixel dropped their iteration of the popular Skyblock map. They hadn't just added an extra island or changed the rules though, they'd gone all out and taken this opportunity to completely revamp the game, providing new ways for players to challenge themselves with skill progression and communal areas. There were custom crafting recipes and even specially designed NPC interactions that allowed you to upgrade your weapons and armor. Building on top of that, we saw RPG features from many prior projects we've mentioned today. Quests, pets, the ability to join together, eventually the additions of dungeons and even player housing coming along too, more recently. With smaller features scattered throughout like the ability to run foot races and even visit the auction house, Hypixel Skyblock acts as that fully living and breathing world that we wanted when players first imagined something way back when. Of course, not to point out the obvious, but they are floating islands in the sky. It's not exactly a huge continent like Wynncraft, which definitely does take away from that MMO feel, but it certainly fits a nice, simplistic theme, allowing the devs to really focus on the interlocking systems and player experience. Hypixel averages 30 to 40,000 players in the Skyblock minigame alone, rendering it one of the most popular experiences in Minecraft to date. Because it's not just about building up your Skyblock. You're building up a profile, a character in a multiplayer realm. A realm that is by definition massive. That's as MMO as it gets, if you ask me. At this point, you can find expansive RPG experiences for Minecraft everywhere you look, like Hegemony, Traders of the East, which launched in late 2020 and offers boundary-pushing world layering. RPG and MMO projects are alive and well, from maps on the marketplace to new trends like RLCraft and the Minecraft Origins mod. But it is safe to say that fully fledged MMO servers are still very far and few between. Hopefully now you understand why. What it takes to build a massively multiplayer world in another game, and more importantly, the steps we took to reach where we are today. MMOs in Minecraft sure have had an expansive history. That and the incredible progression we've seen with RPG mechanics, plugins, and mods makes for an impressive journey that's worth looking back on. We should admire the steps within the process, especially if you're a fan of this channel, because no doubt, with the insane RPG mechanics Hytale provides, produced by Hypixel themselves, the makers of that Skyblock MMO we mentioned, it's bound to provide a new wave of experiences and inspiration. So make sure you're subscribed for when that game launches, and make sure to visit Kweebec.com for 50k merch. Do you know any other Minecraft MMO projects? Tell me more about them in the comments. If you want to talk theories, gameplay ideas, and new updates, then make sure to join the Kweebec Corner Discord server with over 3,500 Minecraft and Hytale enthusiasts such as yourself. Massive praise to the channel members listed for all their amazing support as usual. Continue smiling, thank you for liking, subscribing, and thank you as always for watching Kweebec Corner. Stay safe and keep free.